lot of systems are down today. Our Treb system's down in the morning.
Oh, really?
Discord.
Is Discord down? Is that what happened?
I don't know. You said it was having issues.
Oh, it's having issues.
Mm.
It is having issues, or at least I am having issues with it.
Mm.
Ugh, I slept in today, and now I feel like my whole day is gone.
Okay, well, let's get it back on track here, okay?
Let's get it back on track. TK,
9:59.
I have not spoken to you for a long time.
It's better that we keep our conversations strictly on the internet because all the good stuff might come out, right? And then
That's right.
it's hard to talk about something with the same passion when you already talked about it once,
sure.
right? It's kind of like, I already told him that. You give him like the Reader's Digest version, and all of a sudden it doesn't become as exciting.
I don't know how all the real media people like rehearse it first.
They're pros.
They're pros.
They're
And
pros.
we are on our way to being pros.
On our
So
way.
we're going to do it different this week, only because I was so busy this week and I didn't have time to kind of put everything together and
Sure.
send it to you. So I think maybe we'll have a conversation about real estate today that is not entirely led by other people's opinions. What do
Oh
you
my
think about
gosh.
that? Does that
Can I
sound...
think for myself today?
You get to think about your own thoughts. Well, I'm going to try and lead you.
Let's talk about COVID.
Yeah, that hasn't been talked to death at all.
Yeah. How are things going now with your kids and
Yes,
sports?
it's a little nerve-wracking, to be honest with you. I mean, the protocols that they send me in writing make me comfortable to send them. But then when I see them in practice, I get extraordinarily uncomfortable.
I find like a lot of people are just a lot of businesses or organizations are doing everything on paper correctly, which is exactly what you said.
Yeah.
And there's just not as much governance when people are actually inside the building, like maybe it'll be just masks, but capacities seem to be a little sketchy. It's like,
I feel...
I think you got more than enough for 6 feet apart on this training surface.
Yeah, and I feel like people are kind of just trying to appease the authorities so that they can get what they want, right? So
Exactly.
we're at my kids' baseball, which baseball is a lot easier to digest because it's outside, right? And they've got all these great protocols, but many of them are not adhered to, and they're the most important, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, the coach after every inning kind of assembles all the kids into a huddle to talk to them. And they're all supposed to be in masks. And if they were, it'd be okay. But most of them are not wearing the mask.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, what's the point of trying to keep them as separate as possible if the coach is going to bring them into a huddle every inning?
Uh-huh.
But nobody else cares. Like, I'm the only one there that's like starting to boil over and get upset, and
You're freaking out.
I'm freaking out.
What's wrong? We're winning, Darryl. We're winning. It's like 8-0. What's going on?
Everybody's
You
talking
shouldn't
about...
be meeting with them at the mount like that.
Everybody's talking about Netflix shows. They're not even paying attention. Their kids are all running around and hugging and touching and like playing around.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there just like getting nervous. But I mean, listen, everybody's got their own way of dealing with things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mine is...
Are your kids going to school?
No, definitely not going to school. Yours?
I think if they would allow me to drop him off tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., he would be the first one in line. So
I don't even know if my kids want to go so much.
I'm sure my son's not too that excited, but he wants to see his friends, and
Yeah.
I want a routine back. So
Yeah, I could use a routine. That's for damn sure.
yeah.
So, but real estate's been pretty interesting in the last 2 weeks. I mean, nothing crazy going on. It seems like everybody's just kind of, at least in my end of things, which is very different than yours right now. Like, it's crazy. Residential's going nuts still, right?
Definitely there's crazy sales. Like we had a bunch of sales this week that were all like 100, 150, 200,000 over asking.
Yeah, but
know,
like
sold in a week.
land, like nothing's really transacting. Everybody's
But
kind of like...
but I can tell you activity's down because it's the end of the summer. So these were just people who are like fed up with doing multiple offers and couldn't find a property in the summertime. So they obviously are still going to be transacting before Labor Day, which was the goal for them probably in February, right? And they're finally achieving it.
Yeah.
So that's why that happens. Is people just get sick and tired of the competitions.
Well,
But definitely overall showings were down and all that kind of stuff, which is a typical end of the summer slowdown, which we expected.
so did we expect it? Because I think if we rewind a few episodes, you were saying that now after July, you thought August was going to be rip roaring crazy too.
Well, in the last episode that we filmed, which has actually been now
2 weeks,
2 weeks,
yeah.
that's what we were seeing. We were seeing the spillover from July in the first few weeks. And
And
look, I'm
then
not
it
saying that the
stopped.
market's
No, but did
the
it
market
slow?
stopped. No, I'm not saying it stopped. The market's doing great. It's just, think about it. There's just less buyers out there.
Yeah,
Um,
you want to talk about competition? Try renting a cottage. Like it
mm,
is
we have
like
one rented for Labor Day.
yeah, like if you didn't book it in advance, there is nothing unless you're okay with no AC and no internet. Then
Mm,
there's a ton of stuff that looks really dirty and gross.
yeah.
But like for a decent buck in a decent area with internet access and AC, nothing.
Yeah.
And
You're looking at like 4 grand a weekend.
yeah, but even that stuff, it's like it's not available.
No.
Not that I would do that. That's crazy, but like it's not available either.
Mm,
Because I'm
well,
sure if it was, my wife would be saying, "I know the budget we set, but like, this is available."
yeah. Yeah. No, there's definitely more people going away. I mean,
I think
myself
they probably
included.
gave up on all these bidding wars and said, "Let's just go get a cottage and chill out, and we'll come back and see what happens."
See what happens. So, do you want to talk about that? You want to see what?
Yeah, I mean, I have a list of things that I think we could touch on, but so what is that? What would we be talking about based on what I just said?
Well, where all those people are going to go? I mean, like I always just look at it like black and white. Like if you're planning on moving and you decided to not move and make that purchase the last week of August and wait until school starts, well then you still need a place to move to, right? Like you're still looking. Maybe you didn't sell already, but you're still keen. And I've got showings lined up already for next week of people who are now just coming into the market, and they'll be the fall buyers. And you're going to be buying. I mean, you've got a need. You got a bigger house that you need to go downsize to. You got, money's tight, whatever it is, right? You got a new baby on the way. You want to grow the family.
Are you seeing that a lot, like a
Yeah.
downsizing kind of thing?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So there's lots of stuff that's going to be adding to the demand of the fall market. Like there's a ton. So
So do you
how are
feel
we
that some
going
of these people are kind of afraid and they're like,
to, like a couple of them are older people, the downsizers and stuff, right? Like you're talking
well,
about
you're
baby
not talking
boomers.
about people that can no longer afford the price point of their house, but like maybe still have a job, but they want to downsize, or maybe
That's a very
somebody,
specific scenario that exists. I'm just not dealing with that exact person right now, but
I
I'm
don't,
dealing with
yeah,
people who can't afford their house anymore for various reasons. Absolutely. Yeah, they've been above water for a long time,
right.
right? So, um, or underwater for a long time.
Underwater. Yeah. I was like, above
They've been
water.
up,
How does that work?
they've been trying to get above water
They're
for a long time,
treading. How about
right?
that?
They're
They've been
treading water
treading.
quickly, right? So, anyways, the main thing is there's a lot of people who are going to need to be able to come into the market in the fall. Like that's just the way it is. So, what we've always been focused on this show is trying to figure out if the supply and the demand numbers are going to be keeping up with each other, and are we going to start seeing an imbalance in the market? And that's, I think, a big topic right now because they are releasing a lot of figures. They are talking about a lot of stuff. I know that banks are having sort of crisis management preparation for the fall to be able to handle people who are not able to maintain their debt services and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, we just haven't seen that flood of listings yet. Too, I think the last figures I read, it was something like between 1% and 5% of loans
So
would.
let me ask you a question. So
Yeah.
let's say, you've been a waiter for like the last 10, 15, 20 years and
Hmm.
you're doing okay and you're happy. But now you haven't been working for a while, or you see the writing on the wall maybe, or you're just not sure, like, why are we waiting until our deferrals run out? Like, wouldn't a lot of these people just say, like, I'm going to have to sell this, or this would be
Nope,
smart?
nobody likes
No?
moving,
I
Daryl.
know, but some people
Nobody
are
likes. I've never
smart.
met anybody who's just been like, "Listen, man, I'm just going to pack up all my stuff, put it in storage, put my house on the market, and if I move, I'm not really sure where I'm going to go, but I'm just going to move, and then we'll see, and then
But are,
hopefully I land somewhere nice."
but are people not smart enough to say, okay, I'm going to sell my house and then I'm going to buy another house? That's
Not
cheaper because I can afford it, or I'm going to sell my house and rent until I figures things out.
people
Like,
like comfort, we people like
that
the
doesn't sound so comfortable, like seeing all these bills start piling up and
It's
juggling that
expensive.
shit,
Toronto's
man.
expensive. It's not like you can just say, "Look, I'm living in the West End. I'm going to go to the East End and save a bundle." I mean, there's some savings there, but real estate fees, land transfer tax, lawyer fees, moving costs, all that kind of stuff adds up,
Sure.
right? So
Sure.
there's lots of reasons why people don't just move just for the sake of moving, right? So there's definitely a lot of stuff. It's a huge emotionally charged type of situation that really a lot of stuff goes through, and different personalities. People are on title with different family members, whether it be a married couple or brother and sister or whatever, and everyone's got their own agendas. So
I guess
I mean,
they're
it's
all
why
still
it
just waiting for it to open up and open up and open up and get better. And it's like, come on, like, come
yeah,
on.
it's why real estate agents will never be replaced by robots. you know, that's the truth, right? It's just there's such a human element
There has to be.
of real estate, and trying to, you know, navigate the waters of making that decision to move it's not a one size fits all. It's not. So
No.
when you say, well, I'm underwater, well, is there a better option for you? Are you going to be getting income that's going to be increasing? Are you a waiter at a place that will be reopening? Right now the CREB is the Serbs coming like an extra 4 weeks. Like, is the government just going to keep on doing that? I know they're saying they're going to transition people to the EI,
Yeah,
but
basically, even the Serb is like $1,600 a month now, down $400, but for a year.
so there you go.
And that's
Right. So
better than what most people like. If the requirement is 120 hours, so if you only worked 125 hours at $15 an hour, you get $1,600 a month.
that's an amazing option for people to be able to keep
It'll,
their heads above water.
I mean, it'll boost a lot of younger people's spending, which might not be bad because they seem to, not save and put it out into the economy.
Yep. Yep.
Although
So
it's on
they're
apps from China, but right? Like, is that
yeah.
money even coming back here?
Well,
Anyway,
a lot of it ends up back somewhere in the
somewhere, I guess, in Canada.
Canadian system. Yeah.
But yeah,
So
I mean, there's a lot of things looming, right? So I mean, I could see why people would kind of be waiting now also. I mean, in the land on my end, which kind of I see it just making things worse that people are kind of waiting on land because literally nothing is transacting in land. I actually noticed a really interesting trend of just the thing that's traded the most in kind of my space is like little retail things on Queen Street, King Street, like Dundas, but just little 18-foot slices of Toronto. But
yeah, you get a
land,
good
as
deal on
far
them.
as I guess you can get a good deal on them now. I mean, I'd be afraid to buy something that had retail as like 70, 80% of its income right now.
Retail's not doing so bad. I mean, you look at the retail numbers. Retail's actually doing really well right now. They've come back, um, you know, very strong. I mean, people are having this stimulus injected into their monthly budgets, and they're saying, "Hey, I got a little bit of room to do some shopping." A lot of people are shopping. I was at an outlet mall last weekend. A lot of people are shopping,
Oh yeah, no, a lot of
right?
people are shopping. But
Yeah.
meanwhile, you read stuff about gigantic retail owners, like building owners, like Brookfield, are potentially in trouble right now. Hired the ex Bank of Canada head. What's his name?
Mark Carney.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
that would have a ripple effect around the world if Brookfield was really in trouble.
now they're just looking at what their options are to make sure that they make the right decisions at all. They're a step ahead.
Yeah,
But
so
there's lots of money going into places that people weren't expecting it to happen, and really the industries that are still hurt is food, travel, and tourism. right?
Entertainment is probably like just on
Yeah,
the edge right now.
food and entertainment, travel and tourism. These are the
Yeah.
big ones where the mass population needs to be going inside where they can't social distance. Those are the areas that are getting hit hard.
Right. So okay, so this we've got this issue with retail, entertainment, food industry, which is a gigantic chunk of the economy.
Hmm.
We have each bank reporting over 10% of their portfolio has been deferred for mortgages.
Much less now.
I don't know. I just read something yesterday where everybody was like even over 12%.
No, no, it's down big time from that.
Well, that would be fantastic. I didn't see that, but I trust you, so that
Yeah,
sounds really good.
yeah.
GDP has not shrunk as much, so I guess that's a growth. GDP has grown a little bit, which is good because it was falling off a cliff. So there's deferral cliff that's looming. There's this retail or entertainment apocalypse that people are talking about, and immigration is not going to help us in the near term.
Hmm.
So I mean, for me, if I'm being honest, that doesn't sound good for the economy or the real estate market at all. And then on top of that story, we have the moving out of the city to less expensive pastures and working from home.
Hmm.
So, I mean, the rental market obviously is in going in the right direction based on all of that stuff. Like the rental market just totally makes sense.
Yep.
But other than pent up demand from pandemic, does the residential low rise sector make any sense? Or is it about to
I
start?
think it does. I think we're going through a change here, and the best indicator of what's going to happen, I think, is happening in New York City right now because they were all heavily relied on urban development, where Toronto's always been, very, very, very mixed, right? Like we always had this really huge concentration of buildings downtown where we never, we're starting to get more buildings in the outskirts and Etobicoke, North York, and
Scarborough.
Scarborough. But really and truly, we have a lot of low rise in those areas, and I think that's why we're starting to see such a robust type of market because the biggest market that's being affected is the downtown core where people don't need to be anymore and they're still comfortable living in the city. So they're not leaving Toronto. So it's not like the mass exodus is the population's decreasing. That's not the problem. Population is decreasing in these other major metropolitan areas.
But the
So
the exodus are only looking as bad as they are because all of the immigrants that want to live in Toronto and want to live in New York because that's where the dream is,
mhm.
like they can't come.
Sure, but there are still immigrants coming. There's still people that are having ways that they're able to
Yeah, and you know what? The
maybe get
numbers.
their permanent residence and stuff like that. They're already here,
Yeah,
so there's all this kind of stuff that is still happening where people are making decisions that because they've already been here working, they're getting their permanent residence, so now they're going to buy, right? So there's still a lot of that coming on. It's just a shift in needs, and we're going through changes. I mean, we don't know where it's going to go, but I mean, there's a lot of things we've talked about them a lot on this show that people just don't need to have the same lifestyle that they needed last year
yeah.
for their work, for their entertainment, for their family, for their commute, all that kind of stuff, right? I mean, they're talking now about the three stop
Scarborough.
extension in Scarborough is finally going to have the
They
tunneling, whatever they want to call it,
they put
analysis or whatever, right?
no,
So
they've put out for bids
for
to
bids,
do the
yeah.
work.
So there you go. So they've already got that type of plan in place for us to be able to spread out, which is what is like. I mean, great timing.
You know
Like
what?
this is what it's all about right now.
And I figured something out. I was
Mhm.
looking at this list that I guess was showing the most populated cities in Canada, or maybe it was North America.
Yeah.
And Scarborough and Mississauga both made that list. And oddly, Scarborough and Mississauga just got, a new LRT
Uh huh.
and a new subway to
Hmm.
appease these gigantic amounts of population,
Exactly. Yeah.
right? Which is amazing. But I didn't even realize, like, how could there not be more infrastructure in Scarborough if it's one of the top 10 populated cities in
In Canada,
in
not
Canada? I don't think
yeah,
it's North America, Canada for
yeah,
sure.
and it's not even that much. It's
600,000,
625,000.
yeah, but
Yeah,
still.
yeah. I guess that's a big city, right? So either
Well,
way, that's the trend, right? So it's like, yeah, provide transit options, right? Provide people the option to live in places that are more affordable, that aren't as close to where they need to be, but they can still get to where they need to be.
yeah,
And
in a
that
reasonable
it's
amount
just
of time.
change. It's just
Yep.
change. So it's all good, and it is all part of the part of the economy and the evolution of a city, right? And no one would have expected this. We were going the way of Hong Kong, London, Paris, New York. Like we were trying to emulate what they were doing, right? Which was making everybody live in one spot and having all the cool stuff in one place.
Sure.
And that doesn't make sense from a practical standpoint when you think about it, right?
No.
Like like infrastructure alone is overwhelmed, and you're not going to be able to have, and then pricing and all that stuff gets out of hand. So, this is a great opportunity. I'm an
No, this is going to
optimist.
be great, and I
Yeah.
think it's going to speed along developments in the yellow belt that they keep talking about. I think they have to give us more widespread low high options,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
construction. And
Yeah.
they need to. I never understood even this green belt, why it had such an effect. Like when I drive around some of these, like Mississauga, Brampton, Newmarket, Scarborough, Pickering, like there's a lot of big properties that could handle some height.
Mm.
Like what I don't know why everybody's like, I guess it's to follow the trend. And it does make infrastructure a lot easier when everybody's kind of nestled in one place. Like to build a multi-billion-dollar three-stop subway system is not extraordinarily efficient.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, that will definitely help generate some jobs and some growth in our economy. So that's
Absolutely.
good.
Yeah. Moving in that direction. Like, I think a lot of people always fear about, losing economic output, like losing the the money that everybody's spending in order to be able to, uh, you know, make our economy work and build up our country and grow and build and all that kind of stuff too. There's just so much of it. There's just so much need for people to be able to earn an income and to find ways to make money to support their family and all that kind of stuff, no matter what economy. And you can look at this in like third world countries. You can look at it in maybe in between countries, first world, second world. There's always ways. So whether you make it globalized, where we're trading with all these different countries and everybody's bringing in this money and sending out that money, or we're just doing it internally, we're going to find a way. Like there's going to be a way that we're making it sustainable, where even if it's public money, and it's publicly funded, and we're building things like subway systems and stuff, that's creating jobs. So
Yeah,
now
no,
everyone's
it's
back to work
great.
again,
That's the
right?
best way to do it.
Right. And now everybody's moving because they've got jobs again, because they can go places. And then guess what? The government's getting their tax money and they're putting the money back into the system. So
Yeah.
no matter what way we
Even
look at it.
even mandated programs like they did with 3M, for example, like when basically they forced them and paid for it
Yeah.
for them to start producing a certain amount of these masks locally, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is great, but they should do a lot more of that stuff,
Yeah. Well,
right?
it's hard to get public funded programs like that going. There's always people who are you know trying to oppose them and stuff like that, right? Because there's lots of screw ups, right? There's plenty of
Sure,
examples of when that
sure.
when that goes wrong. But it is
We
the right way. It is the best way in order for us to all be um, comfortable with the way that we have our lives set up right now
things are gonna
continue on this
change
path.
like a lot. Like you see stuff where this. Hold on a sec. Like the CPI index, right?
Mm,
Inflation. Like people are woke now, as my kids would say. Like people are
yeah.
waking up and realizing. I mean, I was having this conversation with a few people last week. 2% inflation, like on what? What the fuck only has 2% inflation right now? Like, okay, because gas prices are down so drastically, the whole thing is still at 2%. Nobody's using the gas,
Hmm.
right? House prices gone through the roof. I need a house. Rent prices went through the roof. People need to live places.
Mm-hmm.
Food, like, I can't even believe how much food is now. It's crazy. And
Mm-hmm.
then if you want good, healthy food, it is ridiculous, right? Or you want to
Absolutely.
order in like food.
My haircut went up 20%.
Yeah, and not kidding. And
Yeah.
listen, what was the what did we there's like COVID pricing now. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
my dad, we were talking. He's looking his lease is expiring, so he's looking for a new car. And he
Yeah.
just wants the same car he has now, but it's like 33-40% more than his current lease.
Yeah.
And they have
Yeah.
to make up for cars they didn't sell. I think. I mean, why else?
Mm.
But so things are going to shake up. Dollars, like all kinds of things are going on. Weird in the world. The U.S. is attacking us, in a trade war right now.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that crazy? Did you hear? I read something this morning that the U.S. is like doing an investigation into the lobster industry. I'm not even joking because he's losing.
Listen, you guys got way too many lobsters over there. I
No,
don't know where you're coming
the
from.
people in Maine whose
Yeah.
main output is lobsters are
Yeah.
freaking out because of the trade agreement between Canada and Europe with regards to lobsters.
Absolutely.
And so now Canada, not only are we, fudging around in the aluminum market and the wood market, we're fucking around in lobsters.
Yeah.
Like this, it's like you don't even know what's going to come out of left field next. So all these people that like are, thinking, hey, I'm in the food industry. These are lobsters. I mean, I'm set. People still need lobster. I don't care, right? Now all of a sudden, Trump falls from the sky and says, I don't think so.
No way. We're taxing you on
Not
those
only are we
lobsters.
stealing TikTok and God knows what else, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna mess up the lobster industry, and everybody
Mm-hmm.
must be going, what the hell's going on here? It's a free market. The aluminum guys, they don't set the price. The market sets the price. It's like anything else, wood,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're
Yep.
they're crying in the States about the wood industry because I guess the land that some of these forests are on are government land. So I guess the cost is cheaper to the guys that are foresting the wood or whatever the hell the terminology is.
Mm-hmm.
So they have some kind of a competitive price advantage. We're talking like one or two forests out of the whole Canadian lumber industry. But like that makes business environment really difficult, right? If you are getting attacked by your biggest trade partner all of a sudden on multiple fronts,
Mm-hmm.
right? So like serious business people, they know all this stuff is going on, right?
Yeah. Well, it's hard. It's harder to forecast what's going to happen with the
It's
economy,
it's
right? So,
really weird, and that was
yeah,
what I was thinking just going into our
people want
conversation.
stability.
It's not even that you want stability. I mean, stability makes it a lot easier, but like I consider myself an expert in certain areas of real estate, right? And
Hmm.
nobody has a fucking clue what's going on with anything right now. Nobody. Yeah, you talk, like, and that's why I didn't even want to talk about these articles because they're so confusing. Right now, they're so confusing because one guy's talking about GDP and the other guy's talking about GDP and they're using the same numbers, but one guy's saying this is horrible. We're going to crash, and the other guy's like, there's growth. Who would have thought there'd be growth by now? This is fantastic. What a great handoff to Q3.
Mm-hmm.
And the other guy's like, the sky's falling, and people are talking about prices falling, and people are talking about prices going crazy, and people are talking about rents falling off, and like, I don't know how anybody can make sense of anything other than just like looking at these main basic like fundamental drivers.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're a Toronto real estate show, so I'm a huge believer that the only way a market is ever going to go down is when you take away the financial capabilities of buyers, because everyone always wants to move. They want to get a house. Housing is just a demand that'll never ever ever be satisfied. But as soon as you take away their borrowing power or their capabilities of getting lenders to fund them, that's when the markets start to fail. And right now, our banks are all saying they had a great Q2, that they've got less loan provisions put aside for bad loans. They've got an optimistic outlook, even though they've got all this crisis management and stuff like that. They're doing really well. Mortgage deferrals are down substantially. There's plenty of people who have not only stopped their mortgage deferrals, but have or other loan deferrals, but have already started making the new payments, and they're making the new payments, right? So they've got a really, really good positive outlook. And I think that one of them said that I think it was TD, they were talking about between 1% and 5% of their loans. So that's a pretty good spread. But the fact that they put the
Yeah.
number one in there tells me that there's a good chance that it could be very low as far as the who's going to be in default on any one of their loans, whether it be mortgage or not, right? So if the banks are healthy and the banks are stable and they're still willing to lend out money,
Yeah.
and the government believes that the inflation is lower than what it needs to be, then they will keep the interest rates low, and everyone's going to have money to keep on going and take this gravy train a little bit further.
Yeah.
It looks like it's going to start heading now into the fall market. Not maybe the same strong sellers market that we saw in July, just because of that, strange pent up demand that we had,
Yeah.
but considerably still a strong sellers market going into the fall.
It's weird. And then you have like stuff going on, like record breaking sale for the city happen on the Bridle Pass. Something sold for almost $30 million.
Was it me?
No, you didn't do that. But it like so I
Who
mean
wants to be neighbors with Drake? I mean, that's it, right? You want to.
$28.8 million while other people are losing their jobs. People
Yeah.
can afford 28 million.
The
Billionaires.
people with money aren't
You
aren't
see
suffering right now. They're doing really well.
Jeff Bezos,
Yeah.
$100 billion in the
200.
pandemic. No, but
Oh
he
yeah,
gained
yeah, gained
100
100. Yeah.
in 6 months, and
I
now
know.
Musk has got $100 billion net worth.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. The whole thing is
Yeah.
like, to make sense of it. I get what you're saying at the basis. Yeah, I mean, take away people's ability to borrow, and yeah, that's gonna stall a market, and they're not. Like, they're definitely not. I remember back in 2008, 2009. Well, actually, hold on a sec. That's not entirely true, because in the land, at least, like, yeah, houses are moving, houses are grooving, but the land is stalled, right?
Okay.
I mean, that's just gonna.
That's a different beast, right?
Well, I mean, look,
Land is sold based on speculation.
based on speculation, sure.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to set up a nice little gap in the supply at some point, because literally nothing is going on. And then even the launch is stopped again in Toronto,
I noticed that. Yeah.
right?
What's
There
up with
was like
that?
three, maybe one other one came on, and then
Yeah.
one.
Just suburban stuff.
It's all suburban stuff and a
Yeah.
lot of like townhouses. A lot of applications are going into the city for new stuff, but that's from stuff that sold like a year ago,
So
six
what are the
months ago.
results of those three though that we don't know? Like
Oh,
what is it that
huge. No, they sold out. Like, they sold everything, that maybe almost everything they had, but they did really well. Like, everybody was very happy.
yeah.
There was just a launch, great deal in Rosedale on Dale Avenue.
Okay.
Or I don't know if they launched, but they just started marketing.
Yeah.
But that's starting at like $6 million a unit.
Oh, I saw that.
It's like a four unit.
They're ugly. Yeah.
Listen, they bought 3 houses in Rosedale for God knows what,
Yeah.
and now each unit is going to sell for $6 million. It's a great deal for the developer.
Yeah. Good luck.
Well, we'll see.
I'm sure
I
they'll
mean,
sell. I'm just saying. I just not something.
well,
that
didn't
I,
you say something like over 6 million is like doing really well, or was it over
over 2
2.5?
million? There's been a huge increase in
I think
stuff.
I read something about over 6 million was doing like the best, like
Well,
for that
it just
segment.
it exists now, so they're comparing it to last year. It didn't
It
exist.
didn't
Might
exist.
have one or two, but yeah, I've seen sales over 6 million this year. But I'm not going to say that everything you put on the market right now is going to sell in that price range. There's not that many buyers in that price range.
No, can you imagine? God, it's crazy. $6 million for a condo.
Mm-hmm. That's the way it goes. So we're in
It's
a
amazing.
healthy, sustainable economy here in Toronto. I don't think the rest of Canada has got the same
Well,
story
hold on.
coming.
So what I was saying is that like in the land, one of the main reasons that it is slow is because of the ability to borrow. Because unless you're like a player and you have a property and you
Yep.
put in a ton of equity right now,
Yep.
you're not getting a loan on land, right?
Okay.
Well, I mean, that takes out a lot of the real estate developers because most of them are not A's.
Yeah. So what? So the same concept applies to land then. Is now the capabilities of developers to get to
Right.
be developers, we'll call them in a very nice way, to get their financing in order
Yeah.
has taken out the capabilities of them to buy.
Taking away the capabilities to buy, which has stalled the market completely, which eventually will have an impact, I guess, in the residential sector when there's another gigantic gap of demand of supply, right?
So an even bigger picture then is the financing in those type of sectors, which is mainly private, right? Which is incredibly speculative, right? And a lot of them lost money in 2017. So a lot of them have fresh burn marks from where things didn't go so well on that private market, right? Like there's just people who were getting into the mortgage market who shouldn't have been. And some of them said, "Oh, okay, never mind. That's sure I'm making 10%, but if I don't get my money back, what good is it,
Oh
right?"
yeah, some of those guys are pretty scared, I'm sure, right now.
Yeah. So I think that's probably, not adding to the allure of, lending money out to guys who are quote unquote B lenders or B developers,
Yeah,
right?
or like in my case, like B minus maybe, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it's
Good.
hard right now, and that makes a huge difference because the guys that are willing to take the risk, right? Because
Mhm.
the big A guys, they don't take risks. It's so calculated and so
No.
precise, and they have the ability to just wait until they find something that meets all their parameters.
Do you know what they're buying right now though? Sorry to interrupt.
What the
You know
big
what all the
guys are
big guys are
buying?
buying?
Um, well, really, it looks like nothing. I don't know what
They're
they're
buying
working
golf
on.
courses.
Maybe golf courses
They're
again. I
buying
mean, I
golf
think
courses
they
right now.
own all the golf
They
courses
own
already.
they own most of them and they're buying more. Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah.
Me and my oldest longtime friend, who's also an architect,
Hmm.
we're talking about the Richmond Hill Country Club and golf course yesterday,
Yep.
and one of my friends from growing up, like her family owns it. And I mean,
Hmm.
that's such a great piece of property. It's gigantic. I mean, something's got to happen there at
Hmm.
some point. The thing
Hmm.
is that the family's developers also.
Exactly. They're not getting into the golf course business. They know that that is the play. And you just stay in the golf course business for 30 years if you have to. So
Why
what?
not? It makes money,
Right? Do
and
what you got to
then
do.
boom,
And it's a land bank opportunity that will pay out.
pays
So,
out big.
right? And so people are concerned about when their golf course sells. There's a few that have sold recently. And they say, oh, well, it's not going to, they're going to be building houses and all that stuff. And no, they're buying it to hang on to it, and they're going to hold on to it for as long as possible until they literally have nowhere left to build on in any other part of
Yeah,
the world.
yeah,
And then they'll be like, okay, let's build on that golf course because it's income generating. When
yeah,
they buy those farms with one little house, they got to build on those right away. They can't hang on to that $30 million property that's got a house on it
yeah,
for very long.
yeah.
They got to start putting in applications. But when you got a golf course,
Anything generating income, an
yeah,
office building, like,
yeah,
I
you're
mean,
gonna
now
you're
the trend is to take a 20, 30 story office building downtown, knock it over,
yeah,
or add 50, 60 stories on top of it. And I'm not
yeah,
even joking. Like
yeah,
this is happening in a lot of places downtown,
yeah,
at least application wise. But there's been a few that are under construction, a few that
mm-hmm.
are finished construction like that.
Yeah.
But I guess that trend, I don't know. I
Got the
don't buy.
United building at University in Dundas, where it's the TD Bank historic heritage site, and they're just building down the middle. Inside, they're coring out the middle of it and building
Yeah, and the
80
Toronto
stories or
Hydro
55
building,
stories or something like that.
Toronto Hydro building, they just put in an application to add like 50, 60 stories on top of the thing.
Makes sense.
It does.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it doesn't make sense right now during a pandemic, but it makes sense that that would happen as far as, these premium locations, right?
It's inevitable.
Hmm.
It's
So
inevitable.
let's talk about the rent freeze for 2021.
Okay.
Government getting election ballots or what?
Like, what does your rent have to be that 1.8% really changes your life?
I don't know, a hundred
Like, I
thousand
read
dollars
this and I was
a
like,
month.
and it
Yeah.
doesn't even apply to everybody. So I read this and I
Well,
was
most
like,
people,
what the fuck is this all about?
the people with no rent control it doesn't apply to, but most people it applies to. Anybody who's due for a rent increase now, like if you signed a lease last year, so you'd be coming up for your rental increase in
Yeah, I
2021.
mean, I guess there's some landlords that bought in new buildings that are upset because they were planning on now finally cash flowing once they got their next increase or could kick people out. Although they're probably sitting there going, oh my God, I have tenants and they're staying and they're paying. Like, beautiful.
From my understanding, if it was post November 15th, 2018, you still have no rent control.
Even with the new regulation?
Yeah, that was
So
my
what the
understanding.
hell is the regulation for?
It's for everybody from before November 15th, 2018, who would have been subject to the
Hold on, I got to do some math here. Let's say
yeah.
you have a $1,600 a month apartment, okay?
Okay.
And now you add, I think the max is 1.9%.
Yeah. So it's like 25
$30
bucks.
a
30
month.
bucks.
Okay, so
There you go.
I'm not so smart. So 30 times 12, 360. So like 360 divided by 15, like you have to work maybe an extra 30 hours or get an extra dollar an hour, or like there's a lot of ways to make that $360. Maybe not smoke cigarettes or whatever.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. So again, this is about election. This is about
But
making people
people
feel
vote for that shit?
absolutely. People go when it came down to fighting for tenants' rights, they put a moratorium on the evictions.
I think I
They
give people
introduced
too much credit
they
for their
introduced the,
for
the,
their
the bill.
brain capacity.
They introduced the bill to prevent, unnecessary evictions. They froze rent 2021. Doug Ford is a man of the people. That's what it is.
Scarborough Transit, Mississauga
Look, they're
Transit,
using the tools that they can. Like really, really, what else can they
N95
do?
masks, vote
Landlords have
Ontario.
landlords have already taken a hit, so they can't just say, rents are going down or rent. Like they can't do anything more.
Does
They've
it
already done
freeze
it.
down too?
What's
Like,
that?
can somebody renegotiate their rent down in this environment?
No,
No.
no.
Are you sure?
Can they ask for it? Can they try to make a payment plan? Can they try to make some sort of rent
Can they say, "Hey, I'm a
reduction
good tenant and
agreement? Absolutely, they can. It's just the landlord um, doesn't necessarily have to agree to a reduction. They can agree to like a deferral. They can agree to a lot of different things. But again, I'd be advising a landlord if he had a really extreme case to be taking a small rent reduction for a short period of time, 3 months, something like that, just to be able to keep your tenant happy. And that if you get 90% of 2 grand, that's definitely a lot better than 0%, right? So
there was a funny story I saw. It says the headline was Halifax landlord removes doors, windows, faucet to get tenants to leave. We got we got tenants cutting off landlords' heads with swords.
yeah.
We've got people putting signs on their buildings, and we've got people removing um, pretty important parts of a house to get their tenants to leave.
Yeah, it's case by case. I know somebody who just rented out a place this week, long-term tenant. The tenant was leaving for personal reasons, nothing to do with COVID. And it all worked out. They got someone to pay a little bit more than the old tenant was paying. They got someone to take over from the time that they wanted. The old tenant's paying, right up until the date the other people leave.
Where's this?
There's a success story,
Not in
Don Mills and
Toronto.
Lawrence. Don Mills and Lawrence.
Don Mills and Lawrence. Oh, that's
Yeah,
interesting. Okay.
yeah. So it's not a horror show. It's just in downtown core. It is, that's for sure. There's only so many
Yeah.
people looking to be there, but this is a nice, spacious 1,350 square foot condo.
Yeah,
2 bed, three
Vitali
bath.
said that he was renting his stuff out in
Yeah,
Hyde Park even. He was like, no
yeah,
problem. I mean, it took a little longer, I think, than they would have liked, but
yeah.
then they
People need
rented
places
it.
to live still. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a total disaster
Wow. So, I mean, do we believe? So what do we focus on here?
in regards to the market.
Yeah. Like, what parts of the news do we actually believe? And what do we focus on? I guess it's
I
just the
think
numbers, right?
I think exactly. Look
We
at the
just focus
sales.
on the numbers and we make our
Yep.
own interpretation.
Yeah, look at the sales. We're still seeing a strong seller's market. We're still seeing properties sell. You should be comfortable enough that if you were to be looking to make a move, to go out and find a property, buy it, get a longer closing, and then put your house on the market and sell it, or your condo in outside of the downtown core, and sell it and be able to move on with life. I sold one this week that was on the market for a little while. It was a custom home, so it was sitting there, and it was a higher price point than most of the area. So, it took a little bit longer. It wasn't that long. I can't remember if it was a month and a half or something like that to get it sold. And it firmed up this week, and the people were selling a condo. So they got enough time to get it sold and everything else too to make it work. So there's buyers out there.
So, but so what's making all your stories work? Are you the common denominator, or is it just that there's more fear-based writing in the news? And if
As to why people are buying,
Well, no, you just gave us two stories of deals you worked on where everything worked out swimmingly for the
there's
people.
there's there's 10,000 deals. So I mean, not listen, I can give you other stories where things aren't going so well, right? So
Yeah, so
right,
let's
there's
hear
just
them. What's going on out there?
well, appraisals is a big one, right? So we've got an extension now on a financing condition for a property that I had sold, and the buyer agent just was working really hard and doing everything right, and said home inspection's good. We got our financing, but the bank needs the appraisal done, and the 5 business days she had booked it. I think plenty of time. I think there was a miscommunication at some point, so now the appraisal still hasn't been booked, and they're asking for an extra day or two. So
Why? Because they're
I think,
so busy doing appraisals?
yeah, I imagine that's exactly what's going on, right?
And how are the appraisals coming in these days versus the
I haven't had any issues, but the deals that I would be most worried about would be the ones um,
that
that haven't
signed a
closed
few
yet.
months ago? Yeah.
No, well, no, just haven't closed yet, so they're coming up. Like this one here, particularly, it seems like it should be a slam dunk because there's lots of activity in this area.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there'll be some other ones where people have gone way over and above what the area has been commanding, and
Yeah.
that's something that they need to be worried about, right?
Well, I called I had two people work on our property,
Mm-hmm.
and two different appraisals just to make sure that the one that because the first one I got, I was very pleasantly surprised. I think you remember,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I got a second one just to make sure. And that one I
It went
was
up.
more than pleasantly surprised with, right? Which is
Yeah.
great for me, right? But
Yeah.
then the pandemic hit and the market slowed,
Mm-hmm.
and a property that I'm positive would have sold if things were not interrupted. It would have sold a long time ago. Is now
Mm-hmm.
kind of sitting there,
Yeah.
and so I called the appraisers just to say, like, what are you hearing? What's going on? Do you still believe in the value of the appraisal you gave me? And they both said, like, listen, there hasn't been much that has transacted. What has,
Supports that.
solidifies and
Yeah.
supports our appraisals. I still
Mm-hmm.
believe that this is, what I think it's worth. But listen, at the end of the day, it's only worth what somebody's going to pay for it, right?
Yeah.
But I, I could see how appraisals, like even the appraisers, it's so hard right now. Like in residential, it's like the prices are so crazy. And you were even saying like people are not using data to buy the properties anymore. They're just trying to win it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
like,
I've,
how do
I've
you
seen. I
appraise
just saw that.
things?
We saw that a few times again this week. Um, but it hasn't been pushing the envelope like anything ridiculous. It's more money than what anybody else was willing to pay. But we're not talking about like six figures or anything like that. We
Yeah.
had quite a few this week actually, where they all were um, surpassing the seller's expectations, and everybody was like, "Great, that's a sign of a strong seller's market." But we weren't dumbfounded, like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe someone was willing to pay for that." We've had lots of those before,
I think
and
we
that
just need to understand what the new environment looks like so that we can move on and figure out how to work in the new rules, right?
Exactly.
It's like a Monopoly game, and they just shook it all up, and we're just waiting for them to give us the new rules list, right?
Yeah.
But they
That's kind
keep
of
giving
the
us more money, so it just there's no new rules,
Yeah,
right? It's just like we
that's
don't
the
know.
goal. That's the goal of any professional working in this market, whether you're selling insurance or mortgages or whatever, just building decks because of the lumber shortage. You need to be able to set expectations properly and navigate it properly so that whatever you tell somebody is actually going to happen, right? Like you say, okay, I'm gonna book your job. You're gonna give me a deposit up front. It's going to take me a month to source all the lumber. So I'm going to start in a month. And when I show up, I'm going to be able to get the job done in 4 days. And then you pay me the rest and we're done. Right. Just simple things like that. So that's what a professional's job is to be able to navigate the current market conditions to make sure that there's the least amount of surprises as possible and
Yeah,
that the customer at the end of the day feels like they were, put into the best position that the market could possibly give them. And that's just in every industry right now, as everyone's figuring out things to
sure.
make sure that they do what's best for their customers.
And I mean, I try and do the math with the stats, and I try and figure out, okay, so if this is, going to be messed up, and that represents 10%, and this is getting better, and this represents 3%, and we build this many units a year, and this many people buy a year, and this many people used to come in, and this many people are coming in. I mean, it still makes for a pretty good market,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's just totally different,
Mm-hmm.
but still really good. Like,
Absolutely. Yeah, there's lots of, like I said, there's lots of businesses doing really well right now, and there's even restaurants doing really well right now, and
but is
there's
there is there
ton
anything
of
wrong with a
retail.
seller's market?
Is there anything wrong with the seller's market?
Yeah.
Who who are you asking, right? I mean, eventually prices become too far out of hand,
Well, anything wrong
where
with a
everyone takes
buyer's
on too
market?
much too much of a debt, right? So once people take on too much of a debt, they aren't able to service that loan for very long, and they work too much, and it means that the money's not going into other parts of the economy and everything else too, right?
Well, so but what about a buyer's market? Anything wrong with that?
Sure, if it's too strong of a buyer's market and people get their finances out of control, then they're not going to have the ability to be able to sort of bail themselves out, right? So that can create things like bankruptcies and all that kind of stuff.
But a balanced market doesn't seem to be a realistic thing that lasts for a while.
Nothing lasts forever,
Right. So I guess
right?
we just keep treading back and forth on
We go
this
back and
line.
forth. There we go. We're just playing ping pong,
Which side are we on now?
right? So we're still heading into the seller's market. I still feel good. I'm still confident. I
I think we're heading in. I think it's just like I think we need another 3 months to work out all this other nonsense that's coming down the pipe, or at least another. Like, listen,
Yeah.
if I actually saw a stat told me that the deferral market did drop a decent amount, and then next month I saw the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
that would be a great indicator for me, and I think a lot of people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially if immigration starts to get a little bit better and we start seeing GDP not be as low as it got during Q2.
Mm-hmm. I think a big thing too is once the unemployment rate settles, right?
Well, that's
That's
part and parcel to those other
Yeah.
things, right? Like
Yeah.
that's the
Once
natural.
that settles, and then we're gonna see where we are. We just don't know where we are. It's still artificially high because of what's going on. What they're expecting is that the long-term layoffs, like people who are not just temporary laid off right now or choosing to be laid off or whatever it is, however they calculate the unemployment rate, is about 1 million people,
Right.
right? So
But they
so
also say that most of those people are not purchasers, that those are likely renters.
I wouldn't generalize that, because some of them could be long-term homeowners, right? Who have been working for 30 years, right?
Yeah.
And now their industries collapse and they don't have anywhere to go, right? So I wouldn't necessarily say they're all renters or anything like that. Like that was a bad
No,
thing. But
no, not that it's a bad thing, just that it won't have the effect of, those people being unemployed and not being able to purchase something.
there's still a huge segment of it. So if you're not working and you don't need a bigger rental property, then the investor who is going to go and buy that rental property to find the tenant who is going to move in, who's going to, it affects the real estate market no matter what. Like
Sure,
it's all
sure.
connected, right? So what is going to be the new unemployment rate? Are we going to have that 5.5% again? No. Where is it going to land? Is it going to be 6? Is it going to be 7? Is it going to be 8?
And are those unemployed people making $1,600, $2,000 a month?
And that's the other part, right? Like take them off the list. Take
Like,
them
are
off
they
the
really
list.
unemployed?
Right? Are you
They're doing
unemployed or not?
okay.
Yeah, I know. I get it. But the new EI system, and I just always find it really challenging for a government to say to someone, you need to prove to us that you're looking for work. People know how to manipulate the system, right?
They do. I mean, listen,
Proving that I'm looking for a job is, you know,
you can sign up for like a website and that's
exactly.
and not do much.
Exactly. And you can make your like, I'm only going to take a job if it is da da
Sure.
da 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 da. If you find me that job, oh yes, I'll go to work tomorrow.
I think there's also a lot of jobs being created for very soon. Like there's a lot of people that have been cooped up that have thought of good ideas that are working on those new ideas and that
Mm-hmm.
maybe have slowly been hiring one or two people.
100%.
Right? And then
There's
they're going to get funding and boom, they're going to employ 50 people.
there's restaurants that are opening.
Yeah. But
There's
listen, if you can
there's
start with the new numbers, it's a different story.
exactly. If you can see what the need of the community is and say, okay, great, no seating, no washrooms,
Boom.
make the lineup the way it is. It's like when Tim Hortons, builds their locations, right? They're thinking like, if I got 20 people in line, how do I loop everybody around the whole entire gas station to make sure that I don't lose any customers and I can maximize this location so they're
Have you
not out
seen
on
the
Lawrence Avenue,
Have you
right?
seen the lineups for Chick-fil-A?
I've never been to Chick-fil-A.
I
No,
haven't been
I
there
saw
either,
when
but
it
I
first
drive
opened. I
by it
remember.
and it's crazy. I we
Really?
we tried it in an airport once and the lineup was down the whole airport.
It's that good or what? Is
It's
that good?
so good, but
They just have
like
a Krispy Kreme's open by my house. I haven't gotten to see
it's funny you said that because I was thinking when you were talking about lineups going down the street. When Krispy Kreme first opened up here, they opened one in Mississauga.
in
And
Scarborough Town. Yeah.
I worked in Scarborough and I was like, the lowest of the totem pole at the time. And so they were like, go to Krispy Kreme's, get us some donuts.
No.
And so I I bought 3 boxes and I got back to the office with 2.
Yeah.
They were so good when they were warm and
Well, right off the
fresh.
conveyor
And
belt.
I
Yeah.
was so sick the rest of the day.
Yeah.
But I had to wait like 3 hours for them.
Well, this location near me has opened it up in a low income area.
Yeah, I
They've
know
opened it up
exactly
with a
where.
drive through,
Yeah,
right?
on Kingston Road.
Yep.
Yeah,
They've
yeah.
made it so it's super easy to get in and out. They understand what the needs of the consumer
But no
are.
drive-through.
No drive through?
No drive-through. We
Oh,
walk in only.
oh, walking. Okay. It was a drive through location before, so I thought maybe they kept it.
The
I
article
haven't
I
been
read
there.
said only walk-through, no
Okay. All
drive-through.
right. I just drove by it the other day. I didn't look.
Yeah, crazy. But
No,
yeah,
it's a
listen,
drive-through.
if any business, that's why I'm saying like we're all just waiting for the new rules to come out so we can figure out how to manipulate them and win the game again.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But the rules are not being rewritten. They're just being like
Flaunted.
amended with stuff that makes no sense.
Yeah.
Right? So we're
Yeah.
just like waiting here. But yeah, if I was to start a restaurant now, there'd probably be a really good computer system involved, maybe a couple of robots in the back flipping some burgers or making the pizzas, and maybe a couple of tables and
You could
all.
have like an app. Go
You
ahead,
don't
sorry.
need an app. You go on all these DoorDash and Uber Eats and all this stuff. Even if they rape you, people are still using it. You get huge visibility and you have very little overhead. You have 2 guys in a kitchen and boom, bang the stuff out.
Yeah. But you walk in, you got an app, you order, you see on the screen, my order's been received, just like Tim Hortons, right? And then you're like, okay.
McDonald's.
And then you go, through the list and you're like, all right, order number 118. It's already paid for. You just go grab it and you go.
Grab it. Or not even that. It's like it's in some weird locker heating, waiting outside for you in the parking lot. You just grab it from locker
It's like a
103.
newspaper stand, right?
And there's robots in the back like making all this shit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then
But
up
think
into the
about it.
locker.
That is, part of the evolution, the technological revolution that we are experiencing,
This is
right?
what's
It's
gonna
how we get our
start
food. And those are the businesses I'm seeing that are being very successful right now
grocery delivery.
are just walk in, order the food, grab the food, and you take, that's
How
it.
smart does Amazon look now, making all these like cashierless grocery stores where you walk in, it knows
Yeah.
what you took, and it bills you as you walk out the door.
That's cool. Yeah. Metro just got self-serve stuff there too. Feel bad. A lot of
I don't
cash
know,
people there
now
get
for like
jobs.
$3 or $4, which I don't understand, they'll pick all your groceries for you, and you come and they put it in your trunk, and you go home, and the couple things they picked aren't so great, and they give it to you for free, and you're done.
Who?
Like Loblaws,
Oh
Metro,
yeah.
all these guys, pickup
Nice.
service. But how for $3, $4? How the hell is that like a thing?
Well, I think the cashiers that are being replaced by the robots are they need to be busy. So how can they, justify these extra workers still being there if you got six different tills monitored by one person now?
Yeah. I love it. I think all kinds of cool stuff's gonna come of this. I just really wish that they would like either tell us what it looks like. They are okay. So they told us that mortgage rates are gonna stay at 2%, but why don't they tell us about like are we doing basic income here now? Like, is everybody getting $1,600 a month, and like we're just gonna move forward? You know, are we gonna ever loosen the regulations on people being inside? Like,
Mm-hmm.
give us the lay of the land so we know how to play this game. And then
Mm-hmm.
everything just, it doesn't go back to normal. It goes back to what normal is. We're in like this weird purgatory right now.
Yeah, the new normal.
The new, on the way to the new normal.
Absolutely, we're
That's a,
learning,
we're
and
just,
we're not going to know until we get there. Unfortunately, right now
yeah.
the normal is just if you're wearing a mask, we don't shake hands, and that's cool. I don't. I'm past the stage now where everyone's kind of like, oh, I'm going to wear the mask because no, you just wear the mask,
Wear the
or we're
mask.
not going to shake hands because no, we know we don't shake hands. Okay, like that's just all now not even talked about
But
because
it's not. That's the thing.
what?
That's how it should be. But that's
Okay,
not how it is. Like,
well, I'm experiencing that a lot more now than I was
more,
before.
yes, more. And there's some
Everyone's wearing
people.
masks inside though. I don't see
Oh,
anybody not wearing.
inside? Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
go inside anywhere, so I don't know. Inside, I've been inside a couple of
Inside,
stores,
everyone wears masks inside. Trust me.
unless they're
Take my
behind
word for it.
plexiglass. Like I've been into
Only when you
like,
sit down at the restaurant, apparently, you can take off your mask.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I can eat. I can eat.